is March the 20th, first? What is it?
20th.
20th, I was right the first time. 2025. Meredith, would you call the roll, please?
Karen Berger. Present. Joe Circusi.
Here.
Nicole Kopic.
Here.
Penny Cutt.
Here.
Linda Thomas.
Here.
Charlotte Burry.
Here. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the February 20th, 2025 meeting, please?
A motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I would like to, at this time, introduce the board and our able-bodied people that tell us what we have to do. On my far right is Scott Reale from Development Services. Those of you that have a petition on our agenda this evening probably have met Scott. To my far left is James Saunders. He is the attorney for this board and keeps us doing everything that's legal. And the young lady behind the glass, her name is Meredith, and she's the one that keeps us all straight. And everything that you have filed with her office has been forwarded to every one of us on the board. To my right, the two people to my right and the three people to my left and myself, we are all citizens of the city of Pompano Beach, and we do this without any compensation. Now, to explain a little bit about the Zoning Board of Appeals, it is a quasi-judicial hearing. Basically, it's similar to if you go into a courtroom. Very shortly, I will have those of you that wish to speak stand up and raise your hand and be sworn in. Everything that's spoken here is kept on the record. And so when you come up to the microphone to speak, we appreciate it if you would speak into the microphone so that your words can be heard and transcribed. When your item is called, you will come up to that podium, you will state your name, spell your last name, and state your address for the record. At that time, Mr. Reale will read into the record the city's position on the matter, and then it's up to you to present your case. Keeping in mind that we have all read about your case even before you come here, but we want to hear from you. If any of you are witnesses, you can call witnesses, and you can have a rebuttal at the end. And other than that, I think maybe we should get started with item number 1. It's a variance.
Madam Chair, if I can place the individuals under oath.
Excuse me?
I place the individuals under oath.
Oh, that's correct. I'm sorry. Those of you that, I'm sorry, we started this meeting late tonight and it kind of made things a little bit nervous. Anyone who thinks they're going to speak or know they're going to speak, please stand and raise your right hand.
Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, item number 1 is a variance. And Paula West.
Thank you. Good evening. Paula West with Plan West for the record. Address is 10152 Indiantown Road, Unit 159, Jupiter, Florida. Scott, do you want me to get into it? Or do you wanna...
I just want, if I can, Scott Reale with Development Services. This item first came before you at the January meeting. Some of you may not have been here then. There was a 60-day postponement to today, to a date certain. We were hoping that there were some code amendments that were going to go to City Commission. They have not yet gone there. If those do go before City Commission, which is expected in April, it's likely that 2 out of the 3 requests from this application will be unnecessary. So I believe the applicant is back asking for another extension, which needs to be granted by the board until we see how that pans out with the text amendment.
Thank you, Scott. Do I have a motion to postpone this item for how long, Scott?
For 60 days.
So moved.
For a month?
60.
2 months. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
A second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, God bless.
See you in 2 months.
And so this will be renoticed.
Or maybe not at all.
Yeah, or maybe not. 60-day postponement will be May 15th, 2025, and it will be renoticed.
Thank you. Item number 2. P&Z number 2511100001 is a variance from Humberto Chavez.
Hello, good evening. My name is Cesar Moreno, and the address is 900 902 Southwest First Street.
Thank you. Scott?
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, this is P&Z case 25-11000001. The applicant landowner is requesting a variance from section 155-5102D1 of the Pompano Beach zoning code in order to reduce the minimum required number of off-street parking spaces to 51 rather than provide 56 off-street parking spaces as previously approved through Administrative Adjustment 18-16000006. The property is located west of Southeast 9th Avenue along Southeast 1st Street in the Snug Harbor neighborhood south of Atlantic Boulevard. The subject property was developed in 1973 under Building Permit 739840, and it includes 2 buildings with 41 dwelling units, comprising 39 one-bedrooms and 2 two-bedrooms. A certificate of occupancy was issued on January 10th, 1974, with parking for 62 spaces, which met the then requirement of 1.5 parking spaces per dwelling unit. The same parking requirement of 1.5 spaces per dwelling unit remains in effect under the current zoning code. In 2018, as I mentioned, a minor administrative adjustment was approved, allowing the removal of 6 parking spaces, leaving a total of 56 parking spaces. The applicant now seeks an additional reduction of 5 parking spaces, which would result in a total of 51 parking spaces on the subject property. The applicant cites several factors for the proposed reduction, including the expansion of the dumpster area, the addition of green space, and the need for adequate truck access and circulation. Given that the majority of the units are 1-bedrooms, not 2-bedrooms, staff does not object to this reduction. The associated building permit, currently in plan review, which is BP 241727, is for asphalt and restriping. That must adhere to the required minimum parking stall dimensions of 9 feet in width, 18 feet in depth, with the double stripe spaces, of course. Now, it's important to note that the subject property does have some active code violations for various infractions, including overgrown landscaping, abandoned vehicles, and improperly identified or insufficiently surfaced parking and loading areas. And while that this variance request does not directly relate to those violations, the applicant must address those and resolve those issues if approved. There are 8 variance review standards. I've noted them in my staff report, and of course, the applicant has addressed each of these as part of their application. And should the board determine that the applicant has provided competent substantial evidence to meet those 8 variance review standards, staff recommends the following conditions be included as part of the board's order. 1, the applicant must obtain all necessary permits and approvals, including building and zoning compliance permits. 2, the applicant must address and resolve all active code violations. And 3, the third recommended staff condition, the applicant must provide 51 double-striped parking spaces with minimum dimensions of 18 feet in depth and 9 feet in width. And before I conclude, I just wanted to say we have with us tonight Mario Sotolongo, who's our code compliance director. He can answer any questions about these code violations or any other code violations that are noted in my staff reports.
Thank you, Scott. Mario, can I hear from you first, please?
Good evening, Mario Stolongo, City of Pompano Beach Code Compliance Department. In fact, we have currently 3 cases open, running fines, and there is a 4th case that will be presented to the special magistrate next week, Wednesday. That one is specifically for a dumpster enclosure that was built without required permits. One of the items that we keep receiving complaints on is the conditions of the parking lot. The parking lot is in bad shape. So I believe that approving this request will probably help expedite the parking permit that is currently being reviewed, and then subsequently the violations will be complied. One of the
Thank you.
cases is
So
one of the
everything's
units.
moving to clear up these code violations?
We hope that that is the case. Again, we have a substantial amount of fines running at this point on those 3 cases, and there will be another one coming in next week.
Is there a deadline established?
I'm sorry?
Have you given him a deadline to when they should be, the code violation should be cleared up?
The 3 cases that are currently running fines, they are final orders, so they have already exceeded those deadlines. So daily fines are accruing on all cases.
Thank you.
When, if parking were exceeded at this facility, because this would provide a deficit of, I think it was 11 spaces, where would overflow parking occur?
I don't think I can answer that question. I mean,
I mean, do you get calls for violations of cars parked, you know, haphazardly? I'm just trying to understand where, you know, if there is overflow parking and would that fall under code violations, is there any way to track that back to this apartment building and their deficit of spaces?
I haven't experienced any issues with overflow parking at this specific property, but if anything happens, it would be on the city surface roads, and that would become a BSO enforcement process.
And if I may, again, these are mostly 1-bedrooms. That's not to say people in 1-bedrooms don't have 2 cars, but they're not all 2-bedrooms, so that may help the situation somewhat, because they have the same parking requirement, 1.5 spaces per dwelling unit for a 1 or 2-bedroom.
Thank you. Does the board have any other questions of Mario?
I have another question.
Talk into the microphone.
Your mic, Ms. Thomas.
Talk into the microphone.
Sorry. The original requirement was for 61, correct?
Correct.
And the reason for the 61, because we needed 1.5 spaces to accommodate the building size, correct?
The number of, based on the fact that this was a multifamily project with 1 and 2 bedrooms, that means that 1.5 parking spaces were required per dwelling unit. And that's been the same for decades. They did get a reduction in 2018, I believe it was, and then and there have been subsequent site changes that have triggered the applicant's request for being deficient and not being able to provide those parking spaces.
So help me understand what changes did we make that we can still accommodate?
Well, that's really, the onus is on the applicant to justify that, but they put in their narrative that there was some additional green space, a dumpster enclosure, I believe, yeah. But I would defer to the applicant on that.
Well, thank you, Mario. Mr. Chavez, now it's your turn.
Okay, as it was speaking, the Pompano property consists of 41 apartment units. 39 one-bedroom and two-bedroom units. According to the current zoning, the number of parking space is 62. That was the original parking space. In 2018, administrative adjustment was granted, and this request variance for the 51 parking space. Okay, this is a graphic. Those are factors affecting the parking reduction, the expansion of duster area to comply with modern requirements, including sufficient access for garbage truck. This area was expanded. The inclusion of green space that they were included along with multiple smart cell areas to comply with the code, the truck circulation improvement, and increased parking space requirement. This ensures alignment with the city zoning and safety regulation. The line over has worked in good faith to comply with the city requirements, and large changes have made to address compliance issues, maintain emergency vehicles, assist to police safety, and preserve green space and improve environment quality. This is the old survey. You can see there's no green area, there's no space for fire truck or the garbage truck. This is the proposed with the 51 parking space. And the conditionals mentioned above are not to benefit the landowner, but rather to comply with current code. This current zoning code for parking space, that this property was restricted to use and create necessary and hardship. The modification made were essential to align the property with the local code, and revisit this change will not only be impractical, but will also undermine the compliance with the most recent legal standard. Okay, this be all.
You're at the conclusion. Does the board have any questions of the applicant? Is there anyone in the audience that is for this project? Is there anyone against this project? Hearing none, public hearing closed. One more time. The board, either a question or a motion.
I'd like to make a motion. In planning and zoning case number 25-110001, I move that we find there is competent and substantial evidence in the record that all requirements for granting the variance have been met, and that we grant the variance subject to the 3 conditions requested by staff.
I need a second.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Meredith, would you call the roll, please?
Penny Cutt,
Yes.
Joe Circusi,
Yes.
Karen Berger,
Yes.
Nicole Kopic,
Yes.
Linda Thomas,
Yes.
Charlotte Burry.
Yes. Your request has been granted.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Item number 3, a major temporary use permit, petitioner Patricia Hodgson. Did I pronounce that right, Patricia? Okay.
First. I'm sure you wouldn't be the last. Patricia Hudson, Hodgson, 912 Northeast 2nd Street.
Thank you. Mr. Reale?
Thank you. Again, Scott Reale with Development Services. This is case P&Z 25-15000002, a major temporary use. The applicant's requesting to be exempt from the provisions Outlined in Chapter 155, Article 4, which are the use standards, and Article 5, which are the development standards of the zoning code. And the request is made in order to temporarily use a recreational vehicle as living quarters on the property during the construction of the landowner's primary residence. This subject property is located in Old Pompano on the south side of Northeast 2nd Street, between Northeast 7th Avenue and Northeast 10th Avenue. The property has one unrelated code violation for unpermitted underground plumbing work on new construction of a single-family home. The applicant has obtained permits for the demolition of an older dwelling, that was BP 22-11541, and the approved construction of a new single-family dwelling, that's building permit 22-11540. Also, a swimming pool permit, BP 245080, is currently in plan review. And the applicant seeks to temporarily reside in the RV, a recreational vehicle, on site to supervise and expedite the construction process. Approval of this major temporary use permit is necessary as the zoning code prohibits the use of an RV as a principal residence in a residential neighborhood. The property is over 25,000 square feet, and that makes it larger than most properties in the area. So according to the applicant's narrative and conceptual site plan, the RV will be placed on the western side of the property, at least 25 feet from the front lot line, away from the construction area where construction will occur, and the setback at least 25 feet from the front lot line, excuse me. The RV will be screened from view by an existing fence and extensive tree canopy, and it will be connected to temporary electric and water hookups, no generator to be used, minimizing any noise impacts in the surrounding area. According to the paperwork submitted with the application, the RV's registration and license plate have expired. The zoning code requires that any RVs parked on a residential property must be properly registered with current visible license plates and decals. A similar major temporary use permit was granted to the applicant by the ZBA back in 2023, and that was P&Z case 23-15000004. However, the permit expired. As we all know, temporary permits are valid for a maximum of 1 year and cannot be extended without a new application. There are 7 review standards for a temporary use permit. The applicant has addressed each of these. They're noted in the staff report. And should the board determine that the applicant has provided competent, substantial evidence sufficient to satisfy those major temporary use permit review standards, staff requests the board include the following 3 conditions as part of the order. 1, compliance with sound level standards outlined in Chapter 97, noise control of this Code of Ordinances. Repeated noise disturbances and complaints or violations may result in revocation of the major temporary use permit. 2, the RV must be currently registered with visible, valid license plates and decals. And the 3rd recommended staff condition, the RV must be connected to the city's utilities, including domestic water supply and sanitary sewer system. That concludes staff's report.
Thank you, Scott. Mario? Would you please let us know the status of the code violations, please?
So the violation that was mentioned by Scott is a building department violation for work that was conducted without permits. I don't have a lot of information on that, I'm sorry.
Underground plumbing work, not directly zoning code stuff. It was more
Okay.
structural.
Is this going to be corrected or in the process of being corrected?
I'm unaware of any violation of underground plumbing. As you know, the construction permit requires underground plumbing, which was approved. And the request from 2023 to allow for the major temporary use was for us to have underground plumbing to the city for water and sewer and electrical as well. So it was all approved under
The building permit.
construction
The
permit.
construction
So I don't,
permit.
again, I'm unaware of a violation for a permit that was approved.
Okay.
And by the way, the tag is up to date. Yeah, yes. So the issue that we ran into is that we had an abandonment of the project on the first GC. So that's why this process was extended. So now we've started the construction process, and we had some theft of copper wires on the AC units that were placed outside. We had to call the police a couple of times for vagrants that were, number one, sleeping in the porta potty and sleeping on the property. So other than that, we're now moving along with the construction process, but we obviously have to keep an eye on everything.
Okay.
That was it.
Anything else?
Nothing else. I mean, everything.
When you say the first GC abandoned, what was?
They just took the money and left. So they destroyed my property, and we had to start from scratch. So we had to find a new architect and a new engineer. So that process took a lot longer to get the approval.
Wasn't the architecture and engineering already completed at that point?
It was, but when you're dealing with the first GC, it's package deal. Everybody up and left. So I had to contract a new GC, a new builder, a new architect to redo all the plans. I had to do a change of engineer process. So it took quite a while.
So when did construction commence?
It started, it started slowly last year. And then, just took a while because we were trying to play catch up.
And what's the estimated completion duration?
We estimate they're in the full completion by January of 2026. That's what we're told.
Thank you.
Any other board questions of the petitioner?
As far as the plumbing, you said that you didn't know about that there was a violation?
No,
Because they red tagged you, so that means they would have slapped a tag on the property, so that's why I'm wondering why you wouldn't known.
we definitely don't. Yeah, I have no idea. If they red tagged for a violation, there's a silt fence around, chain link fence. So I don't even know the date of a violation.
Okay. 4/25, the inspector came out, and so then it was on 5/1 of '24, so in May
Oh, so
is when they
that's-
gave it to you, yes.
Okay, so that was probably when, we
Okay.
had this issue with,
The other
GC. Yeah.
builder.
Yeah.
Okay. And then as far as the camper, for the facilities and all, how is that all going to be taken care of? Is it plumbing going to it? Is that what the plumbing
Yes,
underground was, maybe?
Yes, that's where,
Okay.
when we were granted the temporary use back then, we started to comply, and that GC, hired his plumber to do the underground work and what have you. We have temporary power overhead, and so now we're trying to change it to underground power.
And how long is the temporary going to be?
1 year.
1
Well,
year?
temporary permits can be approved for up to 1 year, and then if you need longer. There's no such thing as an extension, but you can reapply for a new temporary use permit. And the board has the authority to limit, it's typically a year, but you could say, okay, we're going to grant it for 6 months. But in this case, it sounds like a year would be
Take a year.
appropriate based on the estimated completion of the new single-family dwelling.
And then with that temporary, everything will be disconnected after that, the electric and everything?
Yes.
Yeah, what happens?
Yes.
How it works? Okay.
Yes, I mean, the intent is to move into the house, so, yeah, so everything would be disconnected.
Any other board discussion?
And to confirm, who is residing in the trailer?
It's just my husband and
Thank you.
I, my 2 little, a Yorkie.
Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak for this petition? Is there anyone in the audience that would speak against this petition? Public hearing closed.
Madam Chair, we did have one correspondence in support of.
In support of. Thank you. Are there any further questions from this board? If not, may I have a motion?
Motion.
A motion?
Yep.
Please.
In the P and Z case, 2515000002, I hope I didn't miss a zero. I move to find that there is competent and substantial evidence in the record that all requirements are granted and the variants have been met, and that we grant the variance subject to conditions requested by the staff.
Do I have a second?
I'd like to amend that, or discussion, I guess, for
Well, I
consideration.
needed a second and then a discussion.
Second.
Okay, further discussion from the board.
Modify the recommendation to include resolution of the outstanding violation.
You agree to include that in your motion?
I agree, but I
Second.
Any further discussion? Meredith, can you call the roll, please?
Joe Circusi,
yes.
Penny Cutt,
Yes.
Karen Berger,
Yes.
Nicole Kopic,
Yes.
Linda Thomas,
Yes.
Charlotte Burry.
Yes. Your request has been granted. And good luck with the building of your home.
Thank you, appreciate that.
My neighbor, so
What?
she's my neighbor. I live on 3rd Street.
Madam Chair, just it was brought to my attention by the board member that the motion went forward as a variance versus a major temporary use. I just wanted to make sure the board was aware of that, taking note of it. It's on all the documentation provided by the applicant for the major temporary use. I'm assuming there was just a misstatement by the board member. So just wanted to clarify, that's all. I think the vote still stands, but it's just a clarification.
It should be a temporary use permit, not a variance. Okay,
No need to do it.
you did. And I didn't hear it, so it's okay. Item number 4, a major temporary use permit from Gen Lobel LLC. Anyone here?
Good evening. Erica Sullivan. Property is 1126 Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard.
Thank you. Scott?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is P&Z case 25-15000001, and the applicant landowner is seeking a major temporary use permit to be exempt from the provisions of Chapter 155, Article 4, which are the use standards, and Article 5, which are the development standards of the zoning code. The permit would allow for the temporary use of a portion of the property for outdoor storage without requiring full compliance with the applicable use and development standards outlined in the code. The property is located in the Northwest CRA on the south side of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard between I-95 and Andrews Avenue. The subject property has an open code violation, that's case number 24-09005938, related to unpermitted storage of commercial trucks and roll-off containers. The site was previously used as a natural gas refueling station and for motor vehicle repair service station, but it has not had an active BTR, business tax receipt, for that use for the past few years. The applicant's narrative and conceptual site plan state that they propose utilizing the eastern half of the property behind an existing fence for temporary outdoor storage for up to 1 year, pending the sale of the property. Now, outdoor storage as a principal use in the I-1 zoning district requires special exception. Now, additionally, because the property is located along a major corridor, superior perimeter landscaping and buffering would be required. If the major temporary use permit is granted, the property would be temporarily exempt from strict compliance with many of these outdoor storage screening standards for up to 1 year. And because of that, I'd like to modify 1 or 2 of the staff conditions, which I'll get to in a minute. But during this 1 year, assuming the temporary use permit is approved, the applicant is expected to seek the necessary approvals to formalize the use. Redevelopment of the property would likely require platting, site plan approval, and possibly a special exception depending on the intended future use. The applicant has indicated that the area behind the fence is rented to a third party for storage. However, no business tax receipt has been obtained for the storage operation. There are 7 temporary use permit review standards, and staff requests the following conditions be included as part of the order, and I'm going to modify a couple of these. The first recommended condition, the applicant must obtain all necessary governmental permits and approvals. 2, the applicant must comply substantially with the conceptual site plan submitted with this application. Outdoor storage shall be limited strictly to the area depicted in the conceptual site plan submitted with the application. The applicant shall submit a site plan application prior to the expiration of this major temporary use permit. The next condition, if this were site planned and if they were permanently vesting the outdoor storage use, the surface would have to be on a hard dustless bonded surface material. I may have been a little harsh in my, since this is a temporary use permit, the applicant is entitled to be exempt from that. So gravel surfaces typically are not permitted for vehicular use areas or storage, but considering this is a temporary use permit, I'm okay with striking condition number 4. The fourth recommended condition, the height of the materials and equipment stored shall not exceed the height of the screening fence. That too has recently changed because heavy equipment now can be stored higher, can be stored higher than the screening. That was a recent code amendment because it's just not practical to have mechanical or this certain types of equipment to be stored higher than the equipment. And the next recommended condition, the applicant must address and resolve all outstanding code violations, particularly case 24-0900-5938. Again, Mr. Sotolongo can speak to that violation. And the last recommended staff condition, the applicant must obtain a business tax receipt for the outdoor storage use. And that concludes staff's report.
Thank you, Scott. Mario? I have a question. In the event that this request for the major temporary use permit is granted, would that eliminate or take care of the code violation?
It will temporarily. It will
Temporarily,
take care of the violation for a year. Yes.
for a year. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please go ahead.
Again, my name is Erica, and we purchased, my partners and I, this property 3 years ago. It was an investment property. We are both residents here in Pompano. We have businesses here, and we purchased this property as an investment. As Scott said, it has not been operational About a year ago, we got a violation that we needed to have a business tax. So we navigated that with the city, and they had us get a landlord business tax. So that's what we have now, an active landlord business tax. So now we have this new violation, and we're just trying to comply with it. We've sat down with the CRA, see what they might want to see happen with the property. We're willing to invest in our city more. So we're just asking for this temporary use so that we can get that going. Do you have any questions?
Board, any questions from the board?
You purchased the property with the intent to do what with it?
We weren't sure.
But you've been leasing it without any authorizations?
So my partners store their business stuff there, the roll-offs that they mentioned. And then we have some heavy equipment that is stored there.
So is the property currently listed for sale?
No, it's not.
I thought I saw that this was temporary while the property was listed for sale. Maybe I misread that.
I wanted to clear all this stuff up before, we listed it for sale.
So I'm trying to understand, so a major temporary use can be issued for a temporary purpose. And so I'm trying to understand, you've had the property for 3 years, and what aspect of this convinces me that this is a temporary use in fact. And furthermore, I understand that Scott said that he's open to waiving the requirement for vehicles to be parked on asphalt, but the fact that there has been vehicular storage on a gravel lot, and we're potentially considering extending that for a year if indeed it is temporary, I've got concerns about oil leaks and potential, gas, whatnot, dripping into that pervious area that doesn't have asphalt or anything. So I'm trying to understand what the use and the plan for the property is, if this is indeed a temporary use, and how contamination will be kept from our groundwater.
So the site is currently with the state because there was a contamination, so it's constantly monitored. So that, I understand what you're saying about that. So we don't want anything like that to happen again, but it is monitored currently. As far as what we planned on doing with the property, we are looking to potentially sell it or like renovate it. I mean, there's no other choice that we have. We need to clear up these violations, and it's been 3 years. So what we're doing is my partners were storing their business stuff there, and then we were going to rent it so we can get revenue, and that's the purpose of the outdoor storage, because it's behind a fence that's screened in, but apparently, that's a violation.
Right, but you've had it for 3 years, and there's still no plans for the property, so I'm just trying to understand what about this potential use is temporary. No further questions.
I have
Yes, please, go ahead.
I have a quick question. In the staff report, it does say that the area behind the fence is currently being rented for storage. I think you just stated, is it being rented or is it not being rented? Or
It is, a small portion of it, yes. And that's why we have the landlord BTR. That's why we got that.
for that purpose?
Yes, we were guided by the city to do that.
And my other question, I guess maybe would be for Scott, as to the landscaping and buffering that would be required. What would the timeline be for that requirement if the temporary use is not approved?
If the temporary use were.
Yeah, it seems like this would make an exception. They would not have to comply.
So it would exempt full compliance with outdoor storage screening standards for up to 1 year. The expectation would be that the applicant would file a site plan depending on whether this is accessory or primary outdoor storage, a special exception would be required as well. Those approvals, that development review would happen during this 1 year. That would be the expectation if it's going to be redeveloped in that capacity. From what I understand, there's other options. Maybe we'll sell it, maybe we'll redevelop it in another way. So this kind of buys time to figure out what it is that how they intend to move forward with the property.
Thank you.
Scott, what is the authorized zoning use of the property?
It's zoned I-1, which offers a variety of uses, but outdoor storage as a principal use would require special exception. If it's accessory, then you could, there's still screening requirements, but you would still need to site plan it no matter what, because and it is a unique property, so it does have its own challenges. If you look at the configuration, there's kind of a former gas station on one side and this other area on the other. So, whoever designs this and redevelops it has their work cut out for them.
Right, and to be clear, it's not like we just abandon it. We keep it mowed. We do keep it up. We go by there all the time. So it's not like we just abandon it and it's blowing dust everywhere and it's a wreck. I mean, it is kept up nicely because we do, care about the property. We were just, unsure of what to do with it. We've spoken to Scott and the CRA about platting it. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that are going on and potentially selling it. But if we plat it and somebody wants to buy it for something else, that isn't a good idea. So we're asking for the 1 year temporary.
Sorry, I have another quick question actually on that. In your conversations with the CRA, like what have those been as to potential development?
So they weren't interested in buying it, but because it was west of 95, they said an industrial land is so important. They think that we should keep it as such. But they were saying, maybe it would be a good fuel station again. I'm not looking to get into the fuel business. So, that's why we were talking about sale. And, I want to clear all this up so that I can put it up for sale and potentially maybe a fuel person comes in and that's the right buyer.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak for this petition? Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak against this petition? Public hearing closed. Any further questions from the board? May I have a
Yes,
motion?
my only question for the board would be, does this warrant a year temporary use when we don't even know, there's nothing convincing me that this situation is on its face temporary as required by our review conditions for consideration of the temporary use. So, hearing that the property has been like this for 3 years, they've been storing vehicles here. If the property doesn't sell, if the property, it doesn't sound like there's any concrete plan or plan in place for this to be a temporary use. Usually when we're confronted with decisions on temporary uses, there's something convincing us that, yes, this proposed effort can be accomplished within a year. And if it's a matter of resolving the violation so that the property can be sold to someone who can beneficially use the property within the city, that's great. So that's my only thing for consideration or discussion.
No further discussion. Can I have a motion, please?
Motion in planning and zoning case 25-15000001. I move that we find there's competent and substantial evidence in the record that all requirements for granting the major temporary use have been met, and that we grant the major temporary use subject to the,
7.
well, they were modified. Is it 7 or 5?
I'm willing to strike 4, so number 4, and I think 5 we could modify to say except for any uses exempt, such as a heavy equipment would be exempt from the not being that
So
can
in
be.
accordance with the 6 conditions as modified by Scott.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion of the board? Meredith, would you call the roll, please?
Honeycutt?
Yes.
Linda Thomas?
No.
Karen Berger?
Yes.
Joe Circusi?
Yes.
Nicole Kopic?
Yes.
Charlotte Burry?
Yes.
Scott, on that particular case, just want to make sure, what you were saying is that even with the temporary permit, they would still have to comply, or whatever the code provision called for as it relates to the height of materials and equipment stored, that code provision will still apply.
Yes, except, however, a recent ordinance exempted a lot of uses, such as heavy equipment can be stored higher than the screening.
But I'm saying that the particular code provision that you're citing is, that still will apply no matter what.
Yes, unless, yes, that's.
I just want to make
yes.
sure it's clear to them, that's
Yes,
all. Thank you.
yes. Unless it's one of the exemptions, yes.
Your petition has been granted. Congratulations.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Now, does this board want to take a 5-minute break, or you want to continue on?
Continue.
Continue? Okay. Item number 5 is a variance for 2201 LLC. And I know you've been sworn in because I watched you raise your hand, so please state your name.
Good evening, Chair, members of the board. Brian Herbert, Gallo Herbert Architects, 1311 Newport Center Drive, Deerfield Beach, Florida.
Are you going to?
I'm Paul Knapp. I'm the owner of 2201 LLC, me and my wife.
Thank you. Scott?
Thank you. This is P&Z case 25-11-000003. The applicant landowner is requesting a variance from section 155-5203 D3C of the Pompano Beach zoning code, which specifies the minimum width for perimeter landscape strips. Specifically, the request is to allow an approximately 5.5 foot wide landscape strip along the west side of the property, which is Northwest 23rd Avenue, instead of the required minimum width of 10 feet. The property is located in the Northwest CRA along the north side of West Atlantic Boulevard and on the east side of Northwest 23rd Avenue. The subject property was originally developed under Building Permit 85-3026, that's PRA 11033, with a certificate of occupancy issued May 29th, 1986. The development consisted of a 78,940 square foot retail furniture store and an associated storage area. The subject property currently holds the following business tax receipts: New York Courts LLC, Atlantic Wallpaper and Decor Pro, Fire-Built Umbrellas, Lux Outdoor Living, and 2201 LLC. A new building totaling 21,492 square feet is planned for construction behind the existing structure. The 6 parcels comprising that portion of the property were rezoned from RM12, multifamily, to B3, general business, through Ordinance 24-37. The proposed expansion is currently under review in the minor site plan review process, and that's case P&Z 21-12000052. The site plan was presented to the Development Review Committee on the following dates: August 17th, 2022, March 6, 2024, November 6, 2024, and most recently, February 19th, 2025. As part of the expansion, a 5-foot right-of-way dedication is required along the entire west side of the subject property, along Northwest 23rd Avenue. Retaining the existing 10-foot wide perimeter landscape strip would result in the loss of 27 parking spaces in the current parking area, as well as 8 new parking spaces in the proposed northern section of the property. To mitigate this impact, the applicant requests a reduction in the width of the landscape strip by approximately 4.5 feet. Staff does not oppose the applicant's request. Retaining the required 10-foot perimeter landscape strip would significantly affect the site's parking and circulation, particularly in light of the right-of-way dedication. Despite the proposed reduction in the western landscape strip, the site data table confirms that the property will still meet the minimum 20% pervious area requirement, ensuring compliance with zoning regulations. Additionally, plans include landscaping within the right-of-way that goes beyond code requirements, helping to offset the reduced width of the landscape strip. There are 8 variance review standards. The applicant has addressed each of these, and should the board determine that the applicant has provided competent substantial evidence to meet the 8 variance review standards, staff recommends the following conditions be included as part of the board's order. 1, the applicant must secure all required permits and approvals, including minor site plan development order, building design development order, and building and zoning compliance permits. 2, if the city engineer determines that the right-of-way dedication is unnecessary, the variance will be considered null and void, and the 10-foot perimeter landscape strip along Northwest 23rd Avenue must be maintained. And the 3rd recommended staff condition, the applicant must demonstrate substantial compliance with the plans submitted with this application and site plan application P&Z 21-12000052. That concludes staff's report.
Thank you, Scott.
Good evening. I've got a brief presentation that I'd like to go through.
Please do.
On the screen is the aerial photograph of the existing property. Highlighted in green is the area in question for the reduction of the green space buffer. The property is being proposed to be developed with a new building, you can see in the rendering, and the upper portion of the building addition is where we propose the new building. The property was rezoned in June 11th, 2024, and during the DRC requirements, it was 3 particular requirements that were made for the site plan. One of them was the right-of-way, the additional right-of-way dedication, not only on the new building portion, but on the existing building portion. The other is a large tree that was asked, that we were requested to preserve this tree. And the third is staff had a desire for the buildings to align to have a cohesive front along Northwest 23rd Avenue. The first hardship that we're running into is that if we give up the additional 5 feet of right-of-way, which we've agreed to, the 10-foot buffer strip would then eat into the parking along Northwest 23rd Street. So all of the parking spaces that you see in the graphic on the screen would be deleted. So that's part of the parking that would be deleted. The building itself is right on the parking requirements of what we need. So this would be a major hardship for the property. This is a picture along the parking. So from the upper right is the parking that would be deleted. As you can see, there's no room to push those further back. So those would be deleted if we do not get this variance. The second, to the left, is a view down Northwest 23rd Street. The purpose of this view is to show that this road leads into a residential area that has a 50-foot right-of-way. So this right-of-way that we're granting probably will never be used. Because it narrows back down as it goes into the residential area. The second hardship is a very large tree that is on site. During the DRC process, Wade Cullum, the city arborist, asked us to try and retain this tree. We have done so. But it puts us in a position where if the additional 5 feet of green space for the buffer is made, it would push that parking and that drive aisle into the tree, and the tree would be deleted. And there's a picture of the tree. The trunk of the tree is probably at least 4 to 5 feet wide. It's a beautiful tree. We'd love to keep it. So in order to do so, we would need this variance. The third hardship is the city staff was desirous to have us align the buildings to the extent possible. So we have a long front on the existing building, which is the hatched portion of the building down below. Our new building, which is above it, significantly aligns with it. We'll kick back a little bit to help give that tree a little bit more room. But if we were to lose an additional 5 feet, it would push back even further and not look as cohesive as the city would like. There are conforming standards that we have to meet. There's 8 of them. I can go through these really quickly. Is there an extraordinary and exceptional condition for this? Yes, and we're keeping an exceptional tree to help this. And if we weren't to get it, we would lose quite a bit of parking for the existing building. There's a picture of the tree. Again, the next one is, would this unreasonably restrict the utilization of the land? No, it doesn't harm the land at all. As a matter of fact, by providing the additional landscaping that we're doing in the right-of-way, you would never even know that the additional buffer wasn't there. We're providing additional landscaping in the right-of-way to supplement for that. So really, it's only an issue on paper that we don't provide the 10-foot buffer. We have the landscaping, we have the buffer zone, otherwise by providing the additional landscaping. Does this confer any special privilege? No. No, this is a pretty unique situation in that the right-of-way was requested during the DRC process. We have a large tree, and this is a very special condition that wouldn't confer to any other property. Is the variance in harmony with the general purpose of the code? We believe so. By providing, this is the landscape plan, and you probably can't see it, but we're providing additional landscaping within the right-of-way, substantial landscaping, so you would never know that the additional buffer wasn't there, because we're making it full with additional landscaping. Again, there's the additional trees outside of the property line that will be maintained by the owner. And does this adversely affect the health or safety of the residents? No, it doesn't. It's an existing condition. We're just giving, on paper, basically an additional 5 feet to the right-of-way. And is it consistent with the comprehensive plan? Yes. Comprehensive plan requires a 60-foot right-of-way in commercial properties. We are complying with that by giving the additional feet on our property to supplement that 60 feet. So it is in compliance with the comprehensive plan. So we've met all of the 8 conditions. We do believe we have substantial hardships that justify the variance. Is this a minimum variance necessary? Yes. So we've pushed it back to the extent possible. I believe we're at about 5.7 feet is what the buffer we're giving, somewhere in the 5s. So we gave as much as we could to make the dimensions work to save that tree. Here's a copy of the overall site plan in case we need to refer to it. And I'm happy to answer any questions you have. Picture is the product that Mr. Knapp provides if anybody needs umbrellas.
Did you want to speak? No? Okay, is there any questions from the board?
Looking at the site plan, it looks like the building does encroach into the tree a decent amount. Has Wade reviewed that? And
Yes, he has.
feels that that can be appropriately trimmed and accommodated?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
He's seen this probably for the last 6 months. So we're right at the end of our DRC process and down to the last comment.
Speak into the
You
mic.
have to speak into the microphone.
Okay.
Please speak into the microphone, sir.
I'm sorry, it's 3 years, and Wade's been out there with us and looked at the tree, and I love the tree, but he loves it more, so we're keeping it.
Any other board discussion? Anyone in the audience wish to, for the petitioner? Anyone in the audience that is opposed to the petitioner? Public hearing closed. Meredith, do we have any letters of support or opposition?
No correspondence has been submitted.
Thank you. With no further board discussion, can I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, before you do that, just
Okay.
a point of, I wanted to point out an issue that Mr. Reale brought up that I want to make sure the board is aware of. In one of the conditions, he talks about the city engineer determining the right-of-way dedication, whether it be necessary or unnecessary. I don't know if that issue has since been resolved, if there's been any discussion with the city engineer that would impact this approval. Based upon the note here, is that the variance would be considered null and void should there be a determination made by the city engineer that the right-of-way dedication is unnecessary. I don't know if there's been any conversation with the city engineer at this point.
Yes, I believe that's one of the conditions that,
I believe it was a DRC condition, but sometimes things change, so that's why I threw that in there. Just in the unlikely event, I don't want, we still want the 10-foot if the dedication isn't necessary.
Just in the future, and again, I don't like to do this in the public discussion, but I think anytime we're looking at conditions that involve other agencies with the possibility, particularly the city engineer, we need to make sure that that inquiry is made prior to. I would hate this board to enter into any kind of development order or approval, and then it is already recorded, because this is a variance, so it's going to travel. So in that instance, we need to be very, very careful of what approvals are necessary coming from this board versus an agency that may decide to remove that requirement.
I don't understand why there's a problem if the city engineer decided that they didn't need the dedication, then our variance approval would be null and void.
No, I'm not saying that the actual act itself would not occur. What I'm saying, the preference should be that this board not issue a nullifiable order. That's the goal. And so, and again, I should have caught this and spoken to staff beforehand so that we could have gotten the answer to the question ahead of time versus having the possibility occurring after the fact. That's all. But that's something that staff and I will improve upon as we go forward. I apologize, but I just needed to at least put it on the record.
Did you notice I didn't ask for double the deficit?
any further discussion?
I'd like to make a motion.
Thank you.
In Planning and Zoning Case 25-11000003, I move that we find there is competent and substantial evidence in the record that all requirements for granting the variance have been met, and that we grant the variance subject to the 3 conditions requested by staff.
I need a second.
I second.
Thank you. Meredith, would you call the roll, please?
Penny Cutt,
Yes.
Nicole Kopic,
Yes.
Karen Berger,
Yes.
Joe Circusi,
Yes.
Linda Thomas,
Yes.
Charlotte Bray.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Your variance has
Have a good
been
night.
granted. And just keep watching out for that tree.
Does it have a name yet?
No, but you know, that's a good thing. I'll name it.
Okay, item number 6, a variance from the McNabb Building Venture LLC. And I know you've been sworn in because I watched you stand up and hold up your right hand. So
Yes, ma'am.
please state your name and,
My name is Ben Cogman.
I live at 421 Northeast 6th Street, apartment 1017, Fort Lauderdale.
And spell your last name for the...
Cogman.
Thank you. Scott?
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. The applicant landowner is requesting a variance from section 155-5301A1A of the Pompano Beach zoning code, which outlines the mechanical equipment screening standards for new development. Specifically, the request is to waive the screening requirements for two 40-foot tall grain silos associated with a beer manufacturing facility, rather than providing screening that extends at least 6 inches above the height of the equipment being screened. The property is located along the north side of West McNabb Road between Southwest 31st Avenue and Southwest 32nd Avenue. The subject property was developed in the late 1970s with a 10,000 square foot building when it was still part of unincorporated Broward County. In 1983, the properties in the Gateway Industrial Center north of McNabb Road were annexed into Pompano Beach via House Bill 923. The current business tax receipt is issued for a professional medical lab. However, the applicant intends to convert the property into a beer production facility. As part of this conversion, the applicant proposes to install two 40-foot tall grain silos behind the existing building. These silos are classified as mechanical equipment under the zoning code, which requires them to be screened from view by a fence, wall, or hedges at least 6 inches higher than the equipment being screened. The applicant argues, and staff concurs, that screening for this type of mechanical equipment would be impractical. Typically, the screening requirement applies to smaller mechanical equipment, such as air conditioning units, generators, swimming pool equipment. However, with two silos, both 40 feet in height, complying with the screening requirement would, according to the applicant, significantly hinder truck access for product distribution and delivery of supplies. Also, the property is considered a through lot, meaning that it has right-of-way on both the front and the rear lot lines. This configuration provides the benefit that no property directly abuts the rear lot line. Additionally, the surrounding area is predominantly comprised of heavy business and industrial warehouse uses. Staff finds that waiving the screening requirement would not have any adverse impact on the neighboring properties. There are 8 variance review standards. I've noted them in the staff report, and the applicant has addressed each of these in detail. Should the board determine that the applicant has provided competent substantial evidence to meet those 8 variance review standards, staff recommends the following conditions be included as part of the order. The first condition, recommended condition, the applicant must secure all required permits and approvals, including building and zoning compliance permits, as well as a business tax receipt. And the second recommended condition, the applicant must demonstrate substantial compliance with the plans submitted with this application. That concludes staff's report.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I am Ben Cogman. I work at AW Architects, and I'm representing Gulfstream Brewery. So a little bit about this project. It is located in Fort Lauderdale at the moment, and they're a growing brewery. They just got their regional brewing license, so they are looking to expand, and they would like to expand in Pompano Beach. So, as Scott mentioned, the site is extremely narrow, and we are proposing to place these silos in the back of the site. Each silo is 40 feet tall. There's 2 silos. One silo is for the grain, the dried grain, and then the other silo is for the wet grain, so the grain that's been processed. The processed grain is going to be housed on a silo that is elevated above the ground 15 feet. And what Gulfstream Brewery is doing is they are recycling this grain. So what is needed is a truck. They are actually recycling them to farmland. So a farmer truck would pull in underneath this silo and collect all the spent grain. And if we did have to screen these silos, then it would hinder the whole operation of this. They need to access it from above, and since we are already 5 feet within the maximum requirement, the roof of it would hinder it, again, non-accessible or usable. So we believe that a variance was needed, and to really progress this amazing business coming to Pompano Beach. They're not only making delicious beer, but they're going to be hosting learning seminars and you name it. So, yeah, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak? No? Okay, I have a question. Do you have a picture of what these silos were going to look like?
Of course. It's on the,
Yeah,
on the very
know,
last
I
page,
just-
but I have a piece of paper there.
I can't see it that small. I got you. Yeah.
So I'll show you before and then after, okay?
Okay.
This is before, and this is on Southwest 14th Court.
Mm-hmm.
And then this will be after. So as you can see to the right, there's a very large tree. So it's really not that much of an eyesore. And I also think, we think that having this massive screening would draw more attention to it.
Well, for the board's edification, the reason why I asked them to put that up there so that we could all discuss it, thinking of a 40-foot silo and you want a fence around it, that would mean a 45-foot fence, which to me would be rather absurd. I wanted them to show the picture that, yeah, we have a ordinance. Those silos don't look very mechanical to me if they hold grain, but that was the reason why I wanted the picture up on the board. I thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any board members have any questions? Any discussion? I would offer to open and close the public hearing, but there's no public here. You're
Yeah, there
here,
is.
but you're not going to speak, I know. What? Right, you're here. Public portion closed. Any board discussion? Can I have a motion, please?
Like to make a motion. Oh, go ahead.
The P and Z case 25.
In the mic, Ms. Thomas.
Speak in the mic.
Sorry. P and Z case 2511000004. I move we find there is competent and substantial evidence in the records that all requirements for granting the variance has been met, and that we grant the variance subject to two conditions required by staff.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the board? Hearing none. Meredith, please call the roll.
Linda Thomas,
Yes.
Penny Cutt,
Yes.
Karen Berger,
Yes.
Joe Circusi,
Yes.
Nicole Kopic,
Yes.
Charlotte Burry.
Yes. Your variance is approved.
Thank you so much.
Make great beer.
As we will.
But it's you know, and I love the idea of the trees. You'll have to name your trees too.
Good evening.
Well, that actually concludes our agenda. However, we have two more items. The first one is ZBA Rules of Procedure Update. And is that you, Scott?
That would be me, yes.
That would be you, okay.
So the ZBA, all advisory boards have to, I believe, have rules of procedure that are updated periodically. These have not been updated since 2018. The updates this time are primarily they reflect changes of the zoning code. The substantive change being that there's an increase in the number of alternate board members. Went from 3 to 6, and that was through ordinance 23-28. That was done because admittedly, we had attendance problems, and sometimes we couldn't get a quorum, so we thought, let's up the number of alternate board members, and that's proven to be very successful. I don't think we've had a situation where we haven't had a quorum or a full board of 6 members in some time. That's the major thing so basically, this document was just updated to reflect the zoning code change. There are a few minor formatting and cleanup issues that are not significant. As I say, the update was long overdue, and it's a working document. Just like the zoning code, we welcome any suggestions and feedback from the board, and are happy to make any further updates in the coming months. But right now, that's the takeaway is nothing's changed except we are making it compatible and align with the zoning code's alternate number of board members.
And that's it?
That's it. So if you want to, I think we need a motion on it.
School, Scott.
I know. I could go on and talk about what's in it, but
yeah, no, that's
need a
not
motion?
necessary.
I think we should do a motion just to
I
approve.
make a motion to approve it.
You have a motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. Okay, now I will turn this meeting over to Meredith for the last item on the agenda, which is the election of the chair and a vice chair. Meredith, it's all yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. May I have a nomination for the chair position?
I nominate Charlotte.
Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, nominations are closed. All in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Ms. Burr, you are elected as our new
I
chair.
have to vote for me? Okay, yeah, aye. Yeah. Oh, I accept.
Congratulations.
Excellent. May I have a nomination for the vice chair position?
Penny.
Oh, that's what you just said.
I nominate Joe.
Joe? Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, nominations closed. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Joe, do you accept?
No.
No.
Oh, we got to do it again. He did not accept.
May I have another nomination for vice chair?
Only us are the options?
Correct. Ms. Thomas, Ms. Berger, Nicole.
I guess you could nominate whoever I'm filling in for tonight.
Oh, he'd kill you.
That would be, yes, Raphael Katz, but he isn't here to accept, so I don't know what the, probably not.
All right, I'll take it back. I'll accept.
Okay, thank you.
All in, excellent.
Need help.
You're doing just fine. I guess that concludes our meeting and our elections.
Motion to adjourn.
And our schooling and everything. Meeting adjourned.